This is an AVNation special. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. We are coming to you live from New York, Times Square, at the for the New York Digital Signage Week. Thanks to Daktronics, who we'll talk to in a second. We're in their offices. Behind us, if you watched us live last year or watched the show of it last year, there was Revlon behind us. It is a Daktronics display. This year there is a fabulous Ford Fusion, I believe, is the display going on. So here's what's going to happen for the next hour or so. We're going to talk about New York Digital Signage Week. We're going to talk about digital signage in general, out of home, advertising, all sorts of things. But to kick it off, we have a couple of really cool guests and buddy I've known for a long time. First and foremost, to my far left, his name is Mike McGraw. Mike is the Senior Vice President of Marketing Solutions for Clear Channel. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thanks.
Absolutely.
Hello, Mike.
Also with us is Randy Antes. Randy is the Director of Digital Projects for Daktronics. Welcome, sir.
Thank you.
Well, I shouldn't say welcome. Thank you for your space. How about that?
Welcome here.
Yeah. And last but not least, the English gentleman that you heard right there. His name is Adrian Cottrell. You guys know him and love him from Daily Do. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having us, Tim.
Absolutely. Thank you.
I'll just say that I've come the furthest, of course.
You have.
Randy, we're in Randy's office, and Mike has walked, what, 50 yards
feet
down the corridor?
Yep, that's about right.
And you flew a couple of hours, I guess.
About an hour and a half. Yeah, it should have been about 2 hours from St. Louis. So.
And we brought the English weather with us.
Is that what this is?
It is.
Okay. Well, I was wondering about that. So, Adrian, let's start with you on this because about a year ago, you and one of our compatriots, Chris Netto, were talking during the summer, and you were explaining to him what it was, and then I got involved at some point. Briefly, what is New York Digital Signage Week to you?
Well, to the industry, New York Digital Signage Week is a week's worth of events that anybody can put on in New York. I mean, there's two centers of media universe, if you like, advertising world, London and New York. They're the two places where most of the media's exchanged. You've got Times Square, we've got Piccadilly Circus. Clear Channel is operating in both domains, but London is not only the capital of UK, it's the capital of advertising in the whole of Europe. There's no other city like London. And I would dare to say, to upset lots of Americans, perhaps, I don't think there's another place like New York for advertising. There's no other thing.
No, I don't think that would be upsetting. Okay. I think that's fairly accurate.
I think Toronto has Dundee Square, which is a smaller version of Times Square. But there's so much happening here, as we know. So as it was one of the hubs of where the happenings were, the big media owners, the big LED suppliers, the big software companies, and broadcast in general, we figured what better place to have a week celebrating digital signage. Now, Ken Goldberg, who you're going to hear from a bit later on, I think is one of the guys who probably coined the phrase, without digital signage, there would be no digital out of home. So digital signage is the technology that's the core to this whole thing. So what Digital Signage Week does, it brings together the LED suppliers, the screen manufacturers, the software vendors, the big outdoor associations. This year, we've got, I think, all 5 of the big outdoor associations supporting the week. So the DPAA, the SEGD, the DSF, both DSF Europe and DSF North America, and the OAAA and the DPAA. So they've all got events on, or they're supporting an event. Pretty much all of the major screen manufacturers, apart from, I think all of them have got an event on this week, and they're all competing for time. So what's nice with what we've done with you and Daktronics is this is the thing that kicks off the week. We're the first on air. There we go. Which is great. So Daktronics got it very quickly that they have an office space with a great view. They're right in the center of the media space, so we can put something on. But it differs a little bit from other shows that because when I first met you, it was probably at Infocom, or it was at Infocom. And Infocom is controlled by some groups that do good for the community, good for the AV industry. But I think they're very, very controlling in terms of what they do. If you want to put other events on around it, it can be difficult. Okay. It can be expensive. They control pretty much what goes on in terms of, and certainly the conferences and things. Here we're in a city. We could take any office. Some of the events we've got this week, we're just taking somebody's office space and doing what we're doing here. You've got another event on Wednesday, very similar to this, from another studio. We've had open houses. You can come to New York and you can go to the top of the World Trade, not called the World Trade Center, the World big thing, open houses. So there's all these things happening, as well as big professional conferences. So Ken will talk about it later on. We've got the Digital Signage Federation do a coffee and controversy debate, and it's a new format. Rather than going to a conference and just having this guy standing in front of slides telling you something, you've got 4 people on stage effectively debating or arguing, and Ken's a great moderator if you want to go along and see that tomorrow. It's a different format. This is a different format. We've got another Tech Talk type TV show tomorrow night as a different format. Mike's going to talk a little bit, I think, in a second about the ARF thing that's going on tomorrow, another event that's been brought into the week. We've got 20 events.
So I'm going to wrap around with you about that, but I want to talk to Mike for a second. Talk for a second about Clear Channel's spot in this space. Like, where do they live? Obviously, we're going to talk with Randy about Daktronics. They're a manufacturer. They make the displays here. Where does Clear Channel live in this?
So our position is that we obviously embrace the technology. We're applying it to our out-of-home units, and we're taking advantage of a technology that allows us to do things that we couldn't do without digital. Dynamic content, real-time updates, things that in the traditional printed billboard space wouldn't be possible. We embrace both formats, printed and digital, but the uniqueness of digital lends itself to things that 10, 20 years ago we couldn't even think about from a creative standpoint. So it's increased our capabilities, it's increased our ability to have things that are more in sync with clients' needs and changes, and also amplify a lot of other things around us, social media and dynamic content and conditional triggers tied to data feeds. So we're very much supportive of the technologies that companies like Daktronics are developing, and we're always sort of keeping our ears and our eyes open for what's next and what we can do to bring better products and services to our clients. And at the end of the day, that's who we really care about, are the clients that are buying out of home and how they can leverage those capabilities to better reach their audiences.
So let's clarify a couple things. Your end users, your clients are the advertisers.
Correct.
Right? It's the
advertising agencies.
Advertising agencies.
Yeah. Correct.
If I'm Coca-Cola or I'm Anheuser-Busch.
Now, so this is the thing that, without digital signage, they would still be taking vinyl and pasting it up on a billboard.
Yes.
That's the thing that's changed in the, in London, it's changed in the, last 5 or 6 years. The US is catching up pretty quickly. I still think London's got a slight lead on the way digital, mainly thanks to JCDecaux, one of your big competitors, of course, but they're plowing huge amounts of money into digital because they're seeing a bigger return on revenues. You can get much more money from a digital billboard than you can from a static billboard. But without digital signage, that wouldn't happen. Yeah. And then now we've got all the other stuff that Clear Channel are exploring, whether it be beacons or GPS or near-field communications and whatever. So that also changes the game for the LED suppliers, because no longer are they just supplying an LED. They have to supply something else. The whole works.
Now, do they have to, and Randy will bring you on this one, do you have to supply the beacons, the NFC, or do you partner with somebody else?
That's a partnering situation. Of course, we're manufacturing and improving on our technology, but we're really looking to the creative world, the SEGD people and users like Mike and his company are developing these new experiences. It's no longer just an advertisement, promoting a brand or an event.
Yep.
You're getting into these experiences where there is engagement, interactivity, things that we love to see. It's creating more
value. It's a shame
value.
we haven't got the Revlon thing, because last year with the Kiss Cam, it was all down to what Clear Channel had done. They focus on a couple, they have to kiss. Picture gets taken,
and
goes
there
to
was social
Instagram.
media interaction with that as well.
Yeah, Instagram, Twitter, or whatever I think it was. So it was very popular, very popular
All right,
campaign.
so this is actually for both of you gentlemen. So walk me through this. We mentioned Revlon. You can check out that video, and we'll post the link from that one. If you look at that display and this one here, I would say it looks like it's improved over the last year. So walk me through that process. Right, as Clear Channel says, you know what, this display is good, but let's make some improvements on it, or let's add NFC, or let's add beacons. How does that conversation work?
That's a good question. So for us, when we're looking at adding new technologies to our screens, and they have evolved significantly over the years. To Randy's point, in the early days, and the first LED screen installation that I was involved in Times Square was back in the summer of 1999. It was a Sony Jumbotron product that doesn't exist anymore. Sony's not even in the LED screen manufacturing business. But At the time, that client was Kodak, who as well was no longer
with us.
No longer with us. But the thought process then was that it gave one client a platform to be able to have either video or slideshow of images, and it was very much a passive experience. You were just viewing the ad. There was nothing really immersive or experiential about it. And as time has evolved and Times Square has evolved and people's capabilities to interact with screens have evolved, everybody has a supercomputer in their pocket now, a mobile phone that can do so many different things, and people spend so much time on those and are so engaged with them that it's only natural for us to try to figure out how to leverage some of those capabilities and how to make screens that allowed people to have experiences. So whether it's adding what we call our crowd cam, which is basically like a giant eyesight camera mounted to the billboard, which is what we leverage for that Revlon execution that you mentioned. It's basically a 1080p point tilt zoom camera that can be zoomed in on the crowd at a specific point. The video feed is sent back into the front end, the head end system that's running the screen, and then we can overlay additional content to make it engaging and tie into social media and take feeds from the internet and layer that in. So we're really talking about taking a lot of different capabilities, live video stream, pre-produced content, social media, and putting that all into an experience that was called the Revlon Kiss Cam, that makes it so much more engaging for people coming through Times Square. Yeah,
absolutely. Randy, from your guys' standpoint, Clear Channel comes to you and says, you know what, this is what we want to do. We want to do X, Y, and Z. And what do you guys think? How do you walk through that process?
Well, what we have to provide in that mix, just as Mike was saying, is the processing power and the processing capabilities to take all those types of feeds, whether it's data or cable feed or whatever it might be. Our processors will take that information and process it out to the display. But the software capabilities to do those things, I would say, is again, it's back into the hands of the creative.
When did you
people.
first come to Times Square? You mentioned the Sony Jumbotron in 1999.
I've been in Times Square for 8 years.
Okay.
8 years ago.
Yeah. And so Daktronics first install was 8 years ago, or before your time?
In 1986, we did our first software installation to run the Dow Jones ticker.
Okay.
And we just replaced the Morgan Stanley display up the street, which had just eclipsed 21 years, I think, 21 years.
Yeah.
And it was the first full motion video LED display in Times Square. So Daktronics been here quite some time.
Yeah. And it's a good, solid American company, unlike the other stuff that we talk about.
We'll talk about China in a second. All right,
no, please don't talk about China.
We'll get to China. Hey.
No.
So
I prefer to talk about the presidential election than
No,
China.
I don't. And I am an American. Real quickly before we get to China.
No, we're not going to talk about China.
I understand AVNation, where we service the residential and the commercial AV world, right? Which there are a lot of really great AV integrators who have tried and some successfully gotten into this vertical. A lot of them are Daktronics dealers, and a lot of them will try to become vendors for Clear Channel. So as someone who our audience would try to sell to you, how should they get into this business if they're not?
That's a good question. Over the years, as we've built up more and more digital displays, whether it's the full motion ones like we have here in Times Square, or the static digital units that you see on what we call bulletins, the standard roadside format around the country, what we're looking for are solutions that, whether it's hardware or software, give us the most amount of flexibility and the most amount of opportunity to upgrade and keep our toolbox constantly full for what we might need to use when helping a client meet their needs when we're putting together a campaign. We don't want to ever end up in situations where we've got a solution that's boxed us in. And it might be a great solution for one specific need, but if it doesn't play nice in the sandbox with other solutions and doesn't give us the flexibility to sort of pivot and sort of marry multiple technologies together, then that can typically be a deal breaker.
Is it something where you mentioned keep your your toolbox full? Is it something where if I'm an integrator trying to help you out, should I be bringing you, hey, here's the latest greatest technology, or should I be sitting back waiting for you to ask for information?
That's a good question too. I would say the best thing to do is to come and do a good CNA. What, client needs analysis.
Yep.
What Clear Channel, what are your needs? What could I do to better meet them and what you're trying to achieve with your business? I think that's just good, sound, salesmanship there, and a good practice to make sure that you're meeting your client's needs. So
we're live from Times Square.
We are live from Times Square.
You're going to hear sirens.
You're going to hear sirens.
Fire trucks.
Randy, what can Daktronics do to help those integrators?
Well, we work a lot with integrators in the stadium projects, whereby you might have
Wrigley Field will be on full display during the World Series.
Love it. Yeah, great venue, and very proud to have a product there. But yeah, I mean, when you get into these large format displays with multiple screens, which you see more and more, I mean, it's just one-upmanship. Every time there's a new stadium or an upgrade of a stadium. Anyway, there are so many displays in there. We do work closely with integrators, both on LED and the LCD side of the equation. So we do work with integrators. In Times Square, I guess, I just have to, the need for integration is here. I guess kind of the same thing Mike said. You just need to understand what the integrator can bring to the table that maybe alleviates, some of what we're doing, makes it more efficient.
I think I understand where you're coming from with the question. I think one of the things that the integrators probably need to understand more and more is content.
Exactly.
Because Daktronics now understand content. If you look at what Daktronics did with the presidential election billboard, where they're providing content to their customers on the Trump-Hillary voting and popularity type stuff, they've got it. They understand content. Mike, one of Mike's areas of expertise is content, and he's from Clear Channel. So it's the one thing that's bringing you to the same level where I can sit down with him. I don't understand what he talks about when he talks about LED and resolution, and I don't understand what he talks about when he talks about advertising.
Yeah.
But if I can come to the table and we all talk about content, wouldn't it be good if we could do this and this and this? You're there at that level, and then your expertise might be going and installing the whole thing. I think a lot of integrators don't understand digital signage as well. And I think I know from what Phil Langer, who's going to be on next, and what Ken may talk about digital signage, they don't really understand what digital signage can do if it's done badly, the damage it can do if it's done badly, and what it can do if it's done well.
Yeah.
And that's what the Digital Signage Federation is there for as well. But I think the content is the thing that brings those people to the same level. When you think that an LED manufacturer now produces content, and you have a Clear Channel guy who's now one of the the best content guys in New York, that's what it's all about. So,
good point. I was just going to say, maybe we don't understand the full scope of what integration can do as well, and that's a good point.
No, but it makes Adrian makes a valid point, and it's something that other people smarter than me have talked about and written about, where encouraging integrators to either partner with or get content creation in their houses, right? So you partner with Phil, again, we'll have one in a second, to be able to have that conversation. You don't have to be an expert. I don't have to be a Photoshop expert or a InDesign expert, but I can at least have that conversation.
You need to understand it.
Yeah, absolutely.
How it works.
All right, guys, we're going to wrap up here and go around the horn a couple things. Actually, real quickly, Mike, Clear Channel has an event, the ARF event. Yep,
we're hosting a breakfast tomorrow morning at the Union League Club, and that's for us to introduce to a new audience that's probably not familiar with our ability to help them include out-of-home in the media mix, and presenting our new Radar Analytics Suite. Radar is a new set of tools that we're really excited to promote. It allows people to plan and buy out-of-home advertising by audience segments. We now have the ability, like a lot of online and social platforms, to be able to leverage data that we get from partners to allow advertisers to pick billboard locations based on which are most likely to index or over-index for certain audience segments. So if you're looking to reach moms or fashionistas or sports fans, we can now look at our inventory across the country by product type, and with certain product types, tell advertisers these units are most likely to reach your target audience. So that's a really exciting
good thing.
development for our industry and for our company. We're the first to have that here in the States, and we're we're really proud to be presenting that to people tomorrow.
And that's called Radar?
Radar.
All right. Well, that actually leads us into our last question here. It goes out to all three of you. And Adrian, we'll start with you on this. What's coming down the pipeline? What's the next greatest thing? The next thing is it Radar, or what else is coming down?
From an advertising world perspective, I think the way people buy the billboards will be completely different. They'll be buying it on audience. That's the key thing, and this is what the Radar stuff does.
Advertisers are buying the audience, not the
advertisers will buy the audience. Okay. Because you don't want everybody who walks past your billboard. You want people who are interested in what you're selling. So the selling and the way you price those products will be done by audience. So it's all will be done on location.
Yeah, very good. Mike, same question to you. What's coming down the pipeline?
For us, it's just to continue to figure out how to partner with and amplify other capabilities. We're really excited about our ability to include things like social media into the content on our displays. It's something that, again, a couple years ago was probably more difficult for anybody to do, and now we have the ability to very easily and quickly scrape social media for a specific hashtag, aggregate that content, moderate it, and post it on billboards in near real time. So advertisers can take campaigns that they're launching across multiple platforms and really amplify what they're doing on social media on digital out of home. So that's really exciting for us as well.
When you do that, is that a fairly automated process, or does that take some
other than the moderation? Yeah, particularly if it's including photos, if it's images, there's no other way to do that than a person moderating it. There's some algorithms and ways you can,
and there are reasons for that.
Yes, exactly.
Too much white flesh.
Yes. Yeah. But it's a fairly straightforward process for us to deploy now, and it's a really exciting way for advertisers to really leverage that on additional channels and feature it on digital out-of-home displays.
All right, very good. Randy, I'm not going to sign an NDA, but you can still give me what's coming down the pipeline for Daktronics.
Sure. Well, I think it's industry-wide. You're seeing resolution getting tighter and tighter, both for the external application and internal. You've got UHD now, ultra-high def, the 2.5s, 1.9s, 1.2s. And it seems that we're all on the same theme here. One of the most exciting things that we see happening is the way the display is being used and being more impactful, becoming even more valuable as a tool, both externally and internally. There's a lot going in. We've been very fortunate in the retail space, the mall space, specifically with the Mace Riches of the world and Simon Westfields. And they've embraced the technology, and they're finding ways to drive new revenue, create more exciting environment for their shoppers, and it's spilling over into lobbies of buildings and corporate headquarters. They're finding that they can really engage and create an environmental experience for whomever's in the environment, and it's starting to spread.
You mentioned UHD, and I'll throw a couple acronyms at you, but how is HDR even a factor when it comes to out of home, or is it at all, or is it strictly the resolution of the the UHD, the 4K, and the next generation of that 8K?
I probably can't get that deep in the weeds. I can say that the UHD is causing quite a stir. Yeah. People are very interested in it, and
is it simple for a clarity standpoint, or are they able to do more things with UHD?
It's clarity. It's minimum viewing distances getting so close that instead of doing an enormous LCD wall, which gives you that very close viewing, the interior applications weren't there. I think with even the 4mm.
Futuresource and Forrester and these people do the research. LED is killing a lot of the video wall market.
Yeah.
Really is.
That, yeah.
We've replaced quite a few. You've got a seamless experience.
It's easier to do. It's like, again, I don't know the technical details. I guess it's less power consumption, and cooler. But it's allowing architects, which is one of Phil's big things as well. It's allowing architects to design spaces in different ways, because the whole wall is an LED wall, but it's a visual wall.
You look at the pitch, and I'm going to get technical for a second. The pitch, which is the distance between the different LEDs, that has dropped dramatically in the last 5 years. There were a number, Chinese included, LED manufacturers who were sub 1 millimeter. You get that, and you're right. You're going to kill the video wall market. So, all right, Mike. we'll let you guys get out of here and get on to your next event and get some more folks. Mike McGraw, Senior Vice President of Marketing Solutions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me.
How can people find out about you or Clear Channel?
Then go to our website, clearchanneloutdoor.com. There's a lot of information there. Look us up. Maybe attend one of the events this week, the breakfast tomorrow, and look at our great displays that we have out here in Times Square.
All right, very good. And speaking of those displays, Randy Antes from Daktronics. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks for the use of your space.
Well, it's good to see you back here again this year. I'm glad I was here to be here this time and not just listening in.
Absolutely. And how do people find out about Daktronics?
Well, we are a worldwide company here in the United States. You can contact our main corporate office out in Brookings, South Dakota, and they will get the right person to speak with you.
All right, very
certainly.
Good. And Mr. Adrian Cottrell. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Adrian Cottrell, Twitter, Daily Do, or just dailydoo.com.
All right, very
just
good.
Google the name.
All right, we're going to have fun this week, he and I.
We are.
All right, I'll let you guys get out of here, and I'll talk for a second about Adrian. Adrian's put together a nice piece. I don't know if he specifically made this or he had somebody made this. Probably Andrew did this, so we'll talk about this for a second. Every year they put together the Daily Do New York Special Edition. It's a paper. If you're in New York this week and you're around any of our events, come by and grab one of these. There's a number of different things. Randy mentioned the partnerships that they've had with different shopping centers, and the cover story here is for Westfield, and the title is Westfield Rewrites Shopping Center Rules. And you're not going to see this. I'll post this on the video when we put it up later. But it is, I'm going to guess, what did you say, 100, 200 yard long display?
Oh, yeah.
More?
Yeah, that's a lot more than me and you can.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's longer than I can put my arms out. So
I was talking about running, dude.
Oh, sure. Good Lord. All right. Okay. We've got a number of. I'm just going to stop talking because two of my favorite people from last year are here. First and foremost, Phil Langer. Phil is a rock star in general. There's no way around this. His official title is founder of Show+Tell. How are you, sir?
Greetings. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for asking me to be a part of this.
Dude, this is awesome. This is awesome. I appreciate it. The other gentleman is Ken Goldberg. Ken is the past chair of the Digital Signage Federation. Also our moderator for tomorrow's event if you come by for the DSF Coffee and Controversy.
You bet.
How are you, sir?
Doing great, Tim. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely. And last but not least, my partner in crime and my favorite, one of my favorite New Jerseyans. I shouldn't say my favorite New Jerseyan because
no, there's a host.
There's a host of them.
I have to.
Chris Netto.
Let's just stop the show right here. I don't need to tell you that this is one of my favorite events that we do.
This right here?
Not just this whole week in general. Yes. Because for me, it is a eye-opening experience because for somebody like myself in the corporate AV world and, strictly, displays and stuff within the conference room, I get to get outside. I get to see these things. Yeah. These are awesome.
These are awesome.
These are great advertisements for our industry and what we do. This is like being a kid in a candy store or a Toys R Us.
There's a candy store right down the
street. Candy store right down there.
The M&M store.
The toy store
can we get a plug for who did that store?
Who did the M&M one?
Yeah.
That was us.
That was
there you go.
There you go.
This was all pre-planned, everybody.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, let's talk about the content because we talked about that very thing with the last group here. Phil, first of all, for you, walk me through creating content for out of home.
That's the fun part, really. Well, it's all fun. We're all tech nerds and enjoy all the gear and the wires and the plugs and everything. But we really feel like we have the most fun when we put it all together and make big pictures. So the M&M's display that's really iconic right now, those big faces, that's been up for many, many years. And there's a reason why that it lasts for many, many years is because it's fun and it's whimsical and people like looking at it.
And it works.
And but I think that what the thing we're struggling with a lot of these things is if we can end up with a product that people enjoy, it's going to sell itself. And so your question about integrators earlier and so forth, what can we do? We just got to keep the end user in mind and make it something that they want. And we're going to be successful at that. And whether we're advertising or in a retail or whatever.
Well, hang on for a second. Because here, the one thing I have learned in however many years we've been doing this, the end user is a loaded statement. It's a
Sure it
loaded
is.
phrase.
Yeah. Right.
Who is the end user?
Well, ultimately, first we need to talk about what segment we're in, because at these events that we're talking about all this week, we really are talking to a lot of different segments. So we have out-of-home advertising. We have a lot of retail clients here who have nothing to do or interest in out-of-home advertising. We have casino clients. We have house of worship. We have so many different segments that are all interested in these shiny, flashy, bright lights, who all have a reason to want what we're selling, what we're all collectively selling. So we have to think about that. And each of those have a different answer to your question of who the end user is and what are we ultimately trying to achieve with these fun toys. So it's a loaded question, you're right. But in a lot of cases, it's you and me, and what would we like to see on these signs?
Okay.
And if we are truly honest with ourselves, we can look around at these signs and say, I'm not so interested in that content. That one's pretty sharp and flashy, and that one I'm so on. And we can really all be judges if we kind of tap into that in terms of content.
Yeah, absolutely. Ken, we're going to talk about DSF for a second here, and you guys have got some stuff going on. Tomorrow is, Adrian mentioned this, I think last year was your first breakfast, and for this week, and if you go on the New York Digital Signage Week page, you're going to see all the events. A lot of them are in the afternoon and the evening.
Mm-hmm.
Last year, you guys started something new. Have a breakfast at Guy Fieri's restaurant here in New York. The topic is coffee and controversy, or the title of it is.
Mm-hmm.
Last year was really cool because here's the thing: you've got Phil was on stage last year, and you're going to be part of the thing
I'll be there tomorrow morning.
Yeah, 4
against our better judgment.
Well, yeah, I can't help you with that. But you've got 4 guests, four people talking, and you do a good job of moderating, and you ask the questions, and at the end of each topic, there's a voting mechanism where people can vote and say who they thought made the best point, I guess.
Yes.
How did you come up with that format?
Well, we started to think of, first it started, when can we find a time during the week to fit in an event? And it became pretty clear relatively quickly that a breakfast event would work, that there wasn't a lot of competition, so to speak. And competition's good, by the way. It means there's lots of events and everybody can't go to everything. But we want to come up with a format that, as Adrian alluded to, wasn't someone standing in front of a PowerPoint and pontificating for a while. We wanted to make it fun, a little lighthearted. So what goes better than bacon and barking, right? So we put together some topics, and that there isn't necessarily a right answer to, and we throw it out there, and we have a nice diverse panel of people. And everybody, we kind of round robin it, start off with someone different on each question. Give them a few minutes to state their case. The next person can say you're full of crap or whatever is on their mind, and state the opposite view. But the idea is to have fun and bring different perspectives to the table. And I think we've done that. Phil's on the panel. We also brought back Brian Mazzaros from OpenEye. Jennifer Davis from Planar and Layard is joining us this year, as well as Jeff Hastings from Brightsign. And myself, and I'm a software guy. But the idea is just to bring people in. And instead of straight voting this year, we're introducing a tool from a company called Lively that's going to let people sort of post some ideas direct from their smartphones onto the screen. Thinly moderated.
That's a little dangerous.
Yeah, thinly moderated. But they'll be able to say, yeah, Phil smacked it out of the park, or Ken, I don't like your shirt again, or that'll be Adrian.
Are you wearing your green jacket that you wore last year?
No, despite the numerous requests, too. I left it in the trophy case.
2 is a quorum in some states.
Yes.
But isn't the green jacket like a sign of, or is that just at the Masters?
That's the Masters,
Yeah, he got a cease and desist from the Masters organization. Right.
All right. In addition to the coffee and controversy tomorrow, you guys have got some announcements.
Yeah.
Yes, you guys are doing some interesting things.
We are, and we're
no scoop.
No?
I'll give you a hint. How's that?
Okay. Just fill that little top of that bottle full of
scoop.
information.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Before we start the panel, the coffee and controversy panel, we're going to have a little announcement. Rich Ventura, who's going to be the incoming chairperson of the Federation, is going to talk for a few minutes about an initiative that we're going to take public tomorrow. Something I think that's been long overdue in the industry. I think it's going to fill a void that exists today in terms of accessibility and information and research. And I'm not going to go any further than that, but it's been about 8 months in the making. We've been doing a lot of legwork, getting some people behind it, and I think it's going to make a difference. It's going to be going on simultaneously here in the U.S. as well as our new friends at DSF Europe.
Okay.
So we're going to go across the pond with it, and I think it's going to provide everybody, the folks on the advertising side, especially, but also the branded side, with access to information that's going to be very valuable, and access to each other that we think is more valuable. So I probably said more than I want to, and Rich is bigger than me, and he's going to hurt me.
It's like a cliffhanger from The Walking Dead. Come on, dude, I'm hanging here by
The
my...
Walking Dead into this. Real quickly, if folks are not familiar with what the Digital Signage Federation is and what they do.
Sure. We've been around for about 6.5, 7 years now, and it's really all about education, advocacy, networking, the primary charters, and giving folks who work in the industry access to each other, access to information. We're doing a great job on our education committee, providing monthly webcasts on different topics that have done really, really well. We're going to enhance that now by having some of them emanate from Europe, and where I'll begrudgingly admit sometimes they're microscopically ahead of us here in the U.S., but we can learn from them. They can learn from us, and they're anxious to do that. And so are we. Advocacy, we've done a lot of work getting out in front of some of the patent issues that have been out there, and networking. We provide regional councils all over this country and Canada right now, where we have smaller groups that get together quarterly, sometimes biannually, give people a chance to network and understand how big this industry really is, that they have folks who work in the same business in the same town, and they have experiences to share. So it's been really successful, and we continue to grow. We're up over 300 companies.
Oh, wow. Good night. Let's talk a second about, Phil, about something that you guys did at Show+Tell, and that's your app.
Yep.
Now, Chris, before we even started this, you guys did a quick little Periscope about it. You guys have developed an interactive app for folks for this week. This week alone.
Yes. Well, we're premiering it this week.
Okay.
Definitely. It's for the industry. It's for for as long as we can maintain it. But to the very point that Ken was just talking about, it's it's a reference tool. It's a resource that we saw a hole in the industry of specifically for New York City, to understand what am I looking at over here and what am I looking at over here. It's built for designers and architects, people with a very casual or an introductory level knowledge of what digital can do, what the displays are. We get a lot of phone calls from folks who are just trying to educate themselves on what's it like, what do I need to know, what questions do I need to ask. And there's really no place for the casual designer or architect or builder to get that information right now, save for Googling who made that sign and calling up a manufacturer, which is done often, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's nothing better than sort of an agnostic, here's what everybody's doing, here's what, and you can take a trip to New York City, and in a way, this is the showroom for our industry. But there's no guide for that showroom. So this is a tool that anyone can download. It's free on iOS and Android, where you can see very specifically what are the important digital displays in our entire city, who made them, what are the resolutions, what are the dot pitches, all those kind of things that you want to know as a first-time buyer or person who's going to be speccing some of that. It's a very cool tool. Interactive, it's GPS, you pop on a map and it follows you around, and there's augmented reality. You can hold it up, and you really need to see it and download it. But it's a fun app. We built it. We've spent a lot of time researching and kind of packing in a whole bunch of knowledge. But if our friends were saying, I want to learn about digital signage, we would say, go to New York City, download this app, and get a good base knowledge for what's out there.
How do they download it? What are they?
Yeah, so you can go to www.showandtell.com/design tour. Adrian's tweeted it. We've tweeted it a lot, it's also available just by searching Design Tour on both the App Store and the Google Play Store. Download it, play with it, send us comments, and to the industry out there, we're constantly adding and updating it. So if there's something we missed or some more information they'd like to add, we just throw it in there.
Does it have indoor stuff as well?
No, it has. It contains. So the GPS doesn't work indoors, but it basically has any installation that folks can go, the public can go see.
Okay.
So anything that's even if it is indoors at a retail store, for example, there's some great retail installations here in the city.
There's one right across with H&M.
Yeah. It's right there. We did that, by the way. Yeah. But so the point is, but the point is
not planned.
Yeah, not planned.
No.
Right. And so, but thank you. There's some awesome stuff. And the new Oculus downtown. You were just asking about the specs. They're all right there in the app. So we did not do that, by the way. But it is beautiful and it's worth noting. So we put it in there. So everything that's important in the city is included in the tool. Yeah.
We have kind of joked as we all kind of gathered here before we started broadcasting, and how busy this week is, and I think Adrian referenced that you, Phil, that you were the busiest guy this week. How important is this week to this industry?
Well, the industry has a lot of work to do, and we need to have some time together to talk about some of those things.
Quickly, why do you say that?
I'm sort of along with Adrian, sort of an industry prodder. I'm not. I don't think we do the best work we can do yet.
Okay.
I think we've got a lot of opportunity out there to do some really awesome work. And to do that, as even Ken was mentioning, we need to kind of come together and talk about some things. How do we sell ourselves? How do we educate our clients about who we are? And can we make it a little bit more exciting so it's not seen as eyesores? A lot of times, this is fun to come see Times Square. Most communities don't want a Times Square in their backyard, but our industry would love to sell them a Times Square in their backyard. And we get sometimes a bad rap for that. So we need to be thinking about how we're being perceived as an industry. And so those kinds of topics are things that we need to talk about on weeks like this.
Ken, same question for you.
I think it's really important because we don't really have a chance to get together as a community in an industry very often. I mean, there's big events at DSE in North America, ISE in Europe, and so on. But this is a great time of year, and it's really evolved into what I call the Olympics of digital signage. Multiple venues, multiple events at the same time. You go to the one that tickles your fancy, and you learn and you network and participate. So I think it's important in that respect, and I think Phil's right. We do have a long way to go in terms of education and how we position ourselves. That'll be one of the topics tomorrow, and I don't want to give that one away, but I'll be sure to bust on Phil pretty good when we get to that. But again, I think it's critical that we have the chance, and it's not one group, right? Any company can put on an event, and more are starting to do it. That's why it's getting hard to find a time slot. It's okay. People will find their way to you if they need to, and just like not everybody wants Times Square in their community. Not everybody needs big LEDs. Some people need small form factor. Some people need the good old 49-inch. Who knows? And they will find you if they know they're here. And I've talked to people from as far away as down under who said, should I come to New York? I said, well, come on.
Yeah. There's
something here for you. Whether you want to fly for 17 hours or not is up to you. But there's something here for everyone. And I think that's what makes it cool.
If you build it, they will come.
Yeah. And one thing I will say, and this, and I've told this to Adrian off the air, so I'll say it here. That right there, the idea that anybody can do an event this week is what fascinates me and drew me to do this last year, honestly, to be honest about it, is because you've got several people doing several different things, and some of them overlap.
Sure.
right? If you go to the New York Digital Signage Week website, you'll see all the different events. Some of them they do indeed overlap. So it's kind of neat to see it that way.
You know what I think is interesting? It's the week itself is starting to expand on the edges. Monday's starting a little earlier, and Thursday's going a little later, and you can bet some things will start happening on Friday next year and beyond. This sort of, one of the stalwarts of this week, the two stalwarts that it was built around, maybe three. The NEC Showcase, which has been going on in New York for, I think, 16 years or something like that. DPAA does their summit this week, or occasionally this week, every year. The Daily Do Investor Conference has been going on for several years as well. And now it's grown tentacles. And so it's going to continue to do that. The growth factor is there more and more, and everybody can find a reason to be in New York for 3 or 4 days. Yeah. They have customers here, they have prospects here, they have colleagues here, and it's relatively easy to get to. It's just expensive to stay at.
It can be, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Chris, wrap this up around before we get into we pick these guys' brain about future trends. I asked the Daktronics and Clear Channel and even Adrian about integrators, our core audience. Why is this or is this week important to them?
Okay. Well, first, this week is super important in a different way. To what Phil was saying, to what a lot of these guys are all going back to. This industry, this specific industry of digital signage and outdoor displays and stuff like that, they have understood and gotten the whole concept of content before us, the AV people have. Because, and no disrespect to any manufacturers, that's a pretty screen. It could be a $500,000 pretty screen. It'll be worth millions if it's paired correctly with the right images.
Right content, yeah.
You know, we walked up to this and said, is that brand new? They're like, no, that's not brand new. Why? The content, white backgrounds. Yep. It made the thing look 5 times bigger than it was last year. And we sat here and go, that can't be the same thing. Nope, they just changed the content. Because we were looking at a cropped image for the Revlon screens where they were more black around the edges, and we discussed this before the show. It's amazing the perception that the change in the content does. For AV people, how many years have we been going, alternating between Las Vegas and Orlando, and we've been discussing, we got to have the content, we got to bring the content. This is part of the as a service. You're not just putting the screen, you're now reaching out to people such as Phil to develop the content. It's just as important. You leave a customer hanging, even if it's a small digital signage installation at a small community college. If you leave them hanging, you're never going to get a ticket back. It's the complete service. And I think the outdoor home and the retail side gets that a lot better than the guy who is still selling a wall mount and a TV.
Well, it goes back to, Dave Labuscus, the head of Infocom, said a couple of years ago as they were developing their strategic plan, or their last strategic plan, they're focused on experience, right? That's what you guys get. To Chris's point, honestly, that's what you guys get. And we talked about beacons last year, and we talked about radar with Mike from Clear Channel, and I want to use this to kind of talk to you guys and bring you into what the next big thing is or what the next trend is. But you guys get interactive. You guys get the content. You get the experience of not just for the end client of the person purchasing the screen, or the end client of the person installing the screen, or what have you, the actual end client of the person experiencing that.
The audience.
Yeah.
Right.
So what's coming down the pipe, Mr. Phil?
That's a loaded question for me. I don't tend to, my kind of stock answer to looking at the next big thing, most of the time folks are focusing on a piece of tech or some sort of an innovation thing. But when we look backwards on things that have been game changers, typically they're not anything new. It's a new application. So for example, when the iPhone came out, we look back on that as an innovative moment in history, but there was nothing new technically. that the iPhone did. They didn't invent cell phones. They didn't invent smartphones. They didn't invent touch screen things. They just put them all together in a way that we had never seen it before and never used it. So to me, when I'm thinking about mining that next big thing, it's not going to be some new 4D hollow smell-o-vision. It's going to be something we know right now.
Can I trademark that?
Yeah, right.
I want that.
I had that in the 80s. I'm sorry.
You'd like all right,
The
as
60s? Are you kidding me? We all watch
That's right.
cartoons.
That's right. And it's not going to be that. It's going to be something we know about right now, that somebody took it and they twisted it and said, that's a darn clever way of using that thing, and that's going to be the next big thing.
Can I ask a question on that note? It's funny that you went to the iPhone, because that piece of technology, and this is just to prove the industry that I'm in. We looked at that and said that's never going to be a thing.
Absolutely.
Okay? Not only was it never going to be a thing, you had IT organizations within the corporate world saying that will never get into our
You know
service.
why?
Yeah.
Because we had Blackberries.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you
don't
know,
anymore.
but you know why it
Yeah.
succeeded. You know why it succeeded past all of those hurdles was because the end users demanded it.
Exactly.
So they touched a nerve in that end user that where they just demanded, we need this, and that's where the next big thing is going to come from. Come up with a Pokemon. There's nothing new in Pokemon. But they put it all together in a way that people said.
Here, to your point, there is nothing. Understand this. Nothing new.
Yeah.
In that entire Pokemon Go, AR is not new.
Right.
Augmented reality is not new. Pokemon certainly isn't new.
Right.
You know,
Nothing new.
GPS
It was
is
the
not new.
application
and the brand.
It was, right.
Yeah.
It was taking it, putting it in a way that everybody just got, and it goes. And that's where you got to look for that next big thing.
And only 8 people died.
So far.
Yeah.
But that's a very good point of just taking technology that's already out there and
Right.
putting a spin on it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what that was.
Right.
You know, the new app that he shows me, I'm looking at that from Show and Tell, and I'm going, this is Pokemon Go for the business world.
Right.
For me, I have an 11-year-old at home who is hardcore.
Don't
Absolutely.
let him kid you. He has all the Pokemon.
And I listen, it's got me outside.
Right.
But if you take that application, and I'm going to just softball it out there because we sort of start talking about it in the Periscope video. If you take this application, use it on a college campus to tell people you're mixing this with a Wayfinder type idea of like what's in this building. You can use that in an outdoor park that has monuments and give the back history of everything that's in there.
Yep.
The applications are so grand. And that's what we were talking about on other shows that we did with when we started going with Pokemon Go and talking about that. Most of the people were turned off by that and they said, you know what, I don't have time to go run around and do Pokemon. You're right, but there is a business application in here. It's just a matter of getting past these little creatures. You replace a creature with a landmark and a device or a store.
I'll give you one that our editor-in-chief, Josh Rago, mentioned. You go to a football game.
Right.
How many of you guys play fantasy football?
Right.
You raise up and you use augmented reality to watch your favorite player and all his fantasy stats.
Absolutely.
Right next to it. I mean, there are so many different applications.
Right.
Ken, I'll give you the last one here. What's coming down the pipeline?
I think really I look at it a little bit more on the tech side than Phil. In my day job, I run a software company, Real Digital Media, and so we're kind of involved in managing content, dealing with the different technologies that pull it together, media players and displays and everything else. But I think the overarching themes I see, one is I'm going to call it convergence, bringing together interactivity, mobility, digital signage, event-based or data-based content, all of those things coming together. And we're kind of at this inflection point where some of the folks who invested in digital signage in the last 6 to 8 years are now going for Gen 2, 2.0 for them, or 3.0 even. And it's really interesting to listen to what their requirements have evolved into. And it comes down to, how do I engage that person? I want to be able to future-proof it, although they can't define that, and no one really can. But I need to future-proof my devices, my software, and my content strategy, so I can be flexible. So that convergence of that comes together at engagement with that end user that we all started to talk about. And I think the other, from a technical perspective, is the evolution of the canvas itself, from the giant screens we see outside here that blow my mind. I can't believe that's the same one as last year. But from that all the way down to 7-inch screens, we're seeing new mediums, not necessarily new, but emerging into the marketplace. OLED is starting to appear.
Yep.
It's going to take a while, but it'll become commercially viable. Transparent displays, projections becoming more prevalent, of course, indoors. And
well, especially
outdoors.
with projection, what they're doing with projection mapping and the content they're creating for the projection mapping.
So cool, the amazing things. If you go to the hockey game anymore, that is what they put on
the Toronto Maple Leafs is probably one of the best I've seen.
Unbelievable.
It's just unbelievable. Absolutely is.
So all these new mediums, and then it all comes back to content again. What do I do with these tools?
Yeah.
And it's cool.
You hear what he said? And it struck me. Explain, what is your convergence again?
The conversions of mobility. Oh, geez, what did I say?
Put you on the spot. The reason why I went there, and not to put you on the spot, is the only conversations we have regarding convergence is IT versus AV.
And we shouldn't have that conversation anymore.
We shouldn't.
Yeah.
His point of convergence is different than ours.
Well, yeah, because it's a different market.
Listen, that's why I'm here on the show. I'm representing the guy who's sitting on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bring data into it. So from an AV perspective, where you're dealing with pixels, those pixels are going to be driven by data. So those pixel folks are going to have to get smart about data, because that's what will inform the pixels more and more. And whether it's user-selected or user-generated content from a smartphone that displays in a reasonable time on a public display of some sort, I think that's what I mean by convergence.
I'm glad that you said that, because right now somebody's head just went on the other side of the screen, because it's always been sorry that your head exploded.
Come have a beer, we'll feel better.
We'll make you feel better. But trying to be the voice of AV, and in a group of very smart people that already get a whole new level of interaction and content and the importance of that, to be the voice of AV here, and we're still fighting arm wrestling over IT versus AV, and it becoming one. You've already moved past that. You said screw that, content and everything else that goes with it.
Mobility, interactivity, all these other things. Absolutely.
We're still stumbling. That's all right. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Right.
We will get there.
All right, guys. Thank you so much, Phil. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
How do people find you or Show and Tell?
Showandtell.com, SHOWANDTELL.com, and come to our party.
You're going to karaoke
Thursday night. Oh man, it's going to be big.
What are you singing?
October.
It's all hush hush.
All right.
It's a need to know thing, but
well, I know what Ken's singing. That's why I'm asking.
Well, we're trying to get him to stay an extra night, so we'll see.
All right.
Stay tuned.
Mr. Goldberg, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
How do people find you or DSF?
Well, my day job at Real Digital Media is www.realdigitalmedia.com, and the DSF is digitalsignagefederation.org. And if I stay, it'll either be Devo or Bob Dylan.
All right.
See,
either one of those.
He said it.
We're good to go.
Bring the red pot.
Absolutely.
Right on.
Orange jumpsuit. You can always get an orange. I go out to Rikers and get an orange.
We saw spandex yesterday on the street. If you want,
orange and yellow, either one.
Heard it here.
Mr. Netto, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
How do people find you?
You can find the company I work for, which is AV Help Desk, avhelpdesk.com. You can find me on your channel. When you're not looking, I get on there and,
I've heard,
and do crazy stuff.
I've heard.
And that's it, man. I'm looking forward to the rest of this week. Like I said, this is one of my favorite times to come, because it's a conversation that's beyond just the tech. We get to talk tech, 300 something days a week. A week, wow, a year.
Right.
And to come here and listen to the flip side and hear very smart people talk about things that may not come out in our daily conversations. Can't beat that, man. Can't beat that with a bat.
No, absolutely. Nope. My name is Tim Albright. Don't follow me, but you can find me, as Chris mentioned, on the website, AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. You'll find this program. You'll find another one we're doing live at this time on Wednesday. You'll find me here in New York all week long. But the website's the best place, because really smart people did some really great work on it. I wasn't one of them. So just check that out, AVNation.tv. AVNation.tv. Thank you very much, Mr. Adrian Cottrell from Daily Do. Thank you to Daktronics for having us, and thank you for listening and for watching. That's all the time we have for this AVNation special. Have a good day.
Awesome.